The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. It came not through regular channels, but materialized directly on President Lisa Dawson's desk in a small crystal cube that glowed with soft blue light. When she touched it, the cube projected a holographic figure of a tall, slender alien with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian. "People of Earth," the figure spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Zixtal of the Ardaxian Empire and official envoy of the Galactic Council. After 50 years of observation, we formally invite humanity to join our interstellar community. We will arrive in 14 Earth days to begin discussions." Within hours, the news spread across the planet. Some people celebrated in the streets, while others stockpiled supplies in bunkers. The world's governments scrambled to form a unified response. After 3 days of emergency meetings, they selected William Carter as Earth's ambassador to the Council. Carter was not a politician, but a respected diplomat known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind. At 56, he had gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that deepened when he smiled. He had negotiated peace between warring nations and brokered complex trade deals, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this job," Carter told President Dawson in her office. "You are exactly the right person," she replied, looking out the window at the Washington Monument. "You see through lies, and you stand your ground. We need that now more than ever." Carter assembled his team quickly. Samantha Lewis would be his chief analyst. She had 3 PhDs and could spot patterns others missed. Jack Miller, a former Marine with a quiet voice and watchful eyes, would handle security. 5 others rounded out the team, experts in science, law, and communications. On the 14th day, the Ardaxian ship appeared above New York. It hung in the sky like a silver teardrop, silent and enormous. Smaller craft descended to the landing site at the United Nations Plaza, where world leaders and millions of viewers watched the historic moment. Ambassador Zixtal emerged with 4 other aliens, each from different species. They looked strange and wonderful. One floated above the ground. Another seemed made of living crystal. Carter stepped forward and offered Earth's greetings. "We bring peace and opportunity," Zixtal said, bowing slightly. "The Council welcomes humanity to take its place among the stars." Later that evening, as Carter reviewed the preliminary documents in his hotel room, Lewis knocked on his door. Her face was pale. "Sir, I found something," she said, placing her tablet on the table. The translation software caught it. "Look at Section 12, Subsection 7. Carter read the passage and frowned. "This says Earth would be required to provide reasonable resource allocations upon request." "That's vague." "Too vague," Lewis agreed. "And this part about security integration could mean anything. I'm running deeper analyses on the full document now." By morning, Lewis had discovered more concerning language buried in the treaty's appendices. Provisions about resource rights favored the Council. Military restrictions would limit Earth's ability to defend itself. These points were cleverly hidden behind pleasant diplomatic phrases. At his first private meeting with Zixtal, Carter mentioned these concerns carefully. "Such worries are natural for new species," Zixtal said, waving a long-fingered hand. "These are standard terms that all Council members accept. They ensure harmony and mutual benefit." "We'll need clarification on several points," Carter insisted. "Of course," the alien replied with a smile that didn't reach his large, pupil-less eyes. "All will be explained when you join us at Council Station. Your team will leave in 3 days. There, you will see the wonders of galactic cooperation." After the meeting, Carter met with President Dawson in the Oval Office. "They're hiding something," he said simply. She nodded. "Find out what it is. Be diplomatic, but protect Earth's interests. Remember, we can always walk away." Neither of them realized then how prophetic those words would be, or how the simple act of walking away would soon throw the entire galactic political system into chaos. The human ship exited the jump point near Proxima Centauri, and Carter pressed his face to the viewport. Council Station hung in space before them like a massive silver wheel. Lights glowed along its rim, and ships of various shapes and sizes moved around it like bees around a hive. "It's bigger than I imagined," Carter said softly. Miller stood beside him, his hand resting near his sidearm, and more heavily armed. "Those aren't just navigation lights." Their ship docked at one of the outer spokes. The team gathered their belongings and prepared to disembark. Lewis checked her translator one last time. "Remember," Carter told his team, "we represent all of humanity now. Be respectful but firm." They stepped through the airlock into a wide, curved hallway. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and ozone. 3 aliens waited for them. A tall, insect-like being with compound eyes, a short blue humanoid with gills, and something that looked like a floating ball of light. "Welcome to Council Station," the insect being clicked, its translator converting the sounds to English. "I am Protocol Officer Kizit. We will show you to your quarters." As they walked through the station, Carter tried not to stare at the dozens of alien species they passed. Some looked almost human. Others defied description. The corridors were filled with the hum of different languages, all speaking over each other. Their quarters were spacious but plain. 5 connected rooms with simple furniture adapted for human use. Large windows looked out into the void of space. "The first council session begins in 3 hours, Kist informed them. "You will be formally introduced." After the protocol officer left, Miller immediately began scanning the rooms. Within minutes, he found 3 listening devices hidden in the walls and furniture. "Expected, but not appreciated," Carter said as Miller disabled them. "They're watching us closely." When the time came, they were led to the council chamber, an enormous circular room with tiered seating. Representatives from 27 species sat in curved rows, murmuring among themselves. At the center stood a raised platform where 5 aliens sat in ornate chairs. "The Big 5, Lewis whispered, checking her notes. "The founding species of the council. They hold permanent leadership positions." A tall alien with gray skin and 6 eyes stood from the center chair. "I am Chairman Vrax of the Moldorian Collective. We welcome our guests from Earth." Carter stepped forward and delivered his prepared speech about cooperation and mutual respect. As he spoke, he noticed how some representatives leaned forward with interest, while others whispered dismissively to their neighbors. After the formalities, a reception was held. Carter moved through the crowd, introducing himself to various representatives. Most were polite but distant. A few seemed genuinely curious about humans. A slender alien with feathers instead of hair approached Carter. "Ambassador Carter, I am Mixora of the Tellurians. May we speak privately?" They moved to a quiet corner. Nixora's feathers shifted from blue to green. "Your speech was impressive," Nixora said. "But be careful. The council is not always what it appears." "What do you mean?" Carter asked. "Notice the Moldavians." Nixora nodded toward a group of small, rodent-like aliens. "They joined 10 years ago. Once, they were proud and independent. Now they simply vote as the Big 5 tell them." Before Carter could ask more, Chairman Vrax approached them. "Sharing stories, Nixora," Vrax said, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "I hope you're not frightening our new friends." "Just welcoming them, Chairman," Nixora replied, feathers now a dull brown. Vrax turned to Carter. "We have prepared a generous entry package for Earth. Resource sharing, technology exchange, protection. All we ask is your cooperation with established protocols." "We look forward to reviewing the details," Carter said carefully. Later, back in their quarters, the team compared notes. "Did you notice how the smaller species were ignored?" Lewis asked. "They barely spoke during the session." Miller nodded, and the security around the Big 5 was intense. "They're afraid of something." Carter looked out at the stars. "We need to find out what's really happening here before we agree to anything." He didn't know it yet, but they had already caught the attention of forces working beneath the council's polished surface, some who saw humanity as a threat, and others who saw them as an opportunity. On the third day of negotiations, Carter sat at a large oval table with representatives from the Council's Trade Committee. The terms they offered seemed generous at first glance: access to faster-than-light technology, medical advancements, and cultural exchange programs. But with each passing hour, Lewis found more concerning details in the fine print. Earth would be classified as a Category 3 developing species, she told Carter during a short break. I looked it up in their records. Category 3 species get only 1/4 voting power compared to the established members. Carter frowned. Anything else? Yes. The resource sharing isn't equal. We would need to provide raw materials, especially water, rare metals, and biological samples, but the technology they're offering in return comes with strict usage limitations. When the session resumed, Carter raised these concerns. The head of the Trade Committee, a jellyfish-like alien named Bloop, waved his tentacles dismissively. All new species begin as Category 3. It is the natural order of things, Bloop said. You must prove yourselves trustworthy before gaining full privileges. And how long does that typically take? Carter asked. It varies. The Moldavians have been Category 3 for 10 years. Others have taken centuries. That evening, Miller returned to their quarters looking tense. He motioned for the others to follow him into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and whispered, I made contact with some station workers. There's an underground network here. Species who feel the Council has betrayed them. Tell me, Carter said quietly. The Big Five control everything. They've been doing this for thousands of years, bringing in new species, promising them equality, then draining their resources and limiting their independence. Lewis looked stunned. Why doesn't anyone leave? Some have tried. The Grixians attempted to withdraw 200 years ago. Their home planet was suddenly hit by a mysterious asteroid storm that wiped out their major cities. Carter's face darkened. We need proof. Late that night, a soft chime woke Carter. A message flashed on his personal device. Maintenance Access Corridor 7B, come alone. It was signed a friend. Carter hesitated, then woke Miller. I'm not going alone, but let's see who our friend is. They made their way through the dimly lit corridors of the station. The maintenance access was marked by a small blue panel. As they approached, a shadow moved, and Nixora stepped into view. You brought security. Wise, the Tellurian said, feathers shifting to a deep purple. Follow me. They entered a narrow passageway that led to a small room filled with screens and unfamiliar equipment. This is dangerous for all of us, Nixora said. But you humans are different. You question everything. The Big Five find this disturbing. What are you showing us? Carter asked. Nixora touched a panel. The truth. The screens lit up with images of planets being stripped of resources, species being relocated from their homeworlds, and military vessels enforcing Council orders. The Council began with noble intentions, Nixora explained. But power corrupts. Now the Big Five maintain control through manipulation and fear. They welcomed you because Earth has resources they want, but they fear your independence. Our military capabilities, Miller said quietly. Yes, your species develop remarkably quickly. Most take thousands of years to achieve what you did in mere centuries. This frightens them. Carter studied the screens. Why help us? You're risking everything. Nixora's feathers turned a sad blue. My homeworld has little left to give. We've been members for 300 years, and we're now dependent on Council support to survive. I don't want to see that happen to Earth. As they left, Nixora pressed a small data crystal into Carter's hand. Evidence. Use it wisely. Back in their quarters, Lewis analyzed the crystal's contents while Carter and Miller discussed their options. If we walk away, what will they do? Miller wondered. Carter stared out at the stars. I don't know, but I'm certain of one thing. Earth will not become another exploited world in their collection. None of them noticed the tiny drone that hovered outside their window. recording everything. Lewis worked through the night, analyzing the data crystal Nyxora had given them. By morning, her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she had found something important. "It's worse than we thought," she told Carter as they ate breakfast in their quarters. "There's a hidden clause in Section 27 of the treaty. Earth would have to reduce its military by 70% within 5 years of joining the Council." Miller slammed his fist on the table. "That would leave us defenseless." "And that's not all," Lewis continued. "They want 40% of our planet's freshwater resources, starting immediately. They're calling it a standard hydration allocation, but it's nothing but theft." Carter's face hardened. "We need to confront Chairman Vrax directly." They requested an urgent meeting, but were told the chairman was attending to important matters. Instead, they were directed to meet with a minor official named Zrel, a small green alien with 3 eyes. "These concerns are simply misunderstandings," Zrel said when Carter pointed out the hidden clauses. "All member species contribute resources for the greater good." "Reducing our military is not negotiable," Carter replied firmly. "And our water resources are vital to our survival." Zrel blinked his 3 eyes in sequence. "Perhaps you are not ready for council membership if you cannot understand these basic principles of cooperation." When they returned to their quarters, they found their communication system was down. "They're isolating us," Miller said as he tried to fix it. Lewis looked up from her datapad. "I've been studying the other data Nyxora gave us. The Moldavians lost 60% of their agricultural lands within 2 years of joining. The Krell were forced to abandon 3 colony worlds. This is a pattern." A soft chime indicated a message had somehow gotten through their blocked communications. It was from President Dawson back on Earth. "Strange incidents at multiple military bases," the message read. "Unknown technology detected. Possible infiltration. Proceed with caution. Authorized to withdraw if necessary." Carter read it twice. "They're already moving against Earth." Later that day, they received another secret message, this time from Nyxora. "Meeting tonight. Same place. Urgent." When they arrived at the hidden room, they found not only Nyxora but representatives from 5 other species, all looking nervous. "You've caused quite a stir, humans," said a rock-like alien with glowing blue veins. "The Big Five held an emergency session after your meeting with Zrel. They're afraid to walk away," added a tall, thin being that seemed to shimmer in and out of view. "No new species has ever questioned the treaty terms so directly." Nyxora's feathers were a deep red. "But there's more. I've intercepted communications between council ships near your solar system." The feathered alien projected an image showing several vessels moving toward Earth. "What are they doing?" Carter asked, a sense of dread filling him. "They call it preparation for integration," Nyxora said. "In reality, they're positioning assets in case you resist." Miller studied the tactical display. "Those are warships." The shimmering alien spoke again. "Many of us have suffered under council rule for centuries. If humanity stands against them, others might find courage to do the same." "We would support you," said the rock-like being. "Secretly, of course." As they left the meeting, Miller pulled Carter aside. "Sir, we need to get out of here. Now, before they decide we're too dangerous to let go." Carter nodded grimly. "I know. But first, I want a public meeting with the full council. They need to hear exactly why we're leaving." Back in their quarters, they found that someone had tried to enter during their absence. Several items were slightly moved, and Miller discovered a new listening device planted under the conference table. "They're getting nervous," Carter said. "Good." He sat down and began drafting a statement, one that would soon shake the foundations of galactic politics and change humanity's place in the cosmos forever. As he worked, a maintenance worker passed their door. Inside his toolkit was a small bomb, set to detonate in 6 hours. Miller was checking the hallway when he noticed the maintenance worker hurrying away from their quarters. Something about the alien's movement seemed off. "Lewis, scan our rooms again," Miller said when he returned. "Something's not right." Lewis ran a device over the walls and furniture. When she reached the ventilation duct, the device began beeping rapidly. "There's something in there," she said. Miller carefully opened the duct and found a small metal sphere pulsing with red light. His military training kicked in immediately. "Bomb," he said quietly. "Everyone out." Now, they evacuated to an empty conference room 2 levels away. Miller contacted station security, careful not to mention who they were or what they'd found. 20 minutes later, they watched on a security feed as a bomb squad removed the device. "They're getting desperate," Carter said. "We need to move up our timeline." He sent a formal request for an emergency council session the following morning. To their surprise, Chairman Vrax approved it immediately. That night, Carter couldn't sleep. He paced their new quarters, going over his speech again and again. Everything would depend on what happened tomorrow. The council chamber was packed when they arrived. All 27 member species were present, along with numerous aides and observers. Carter noticed several of the aliens from their secret meetings sitting with their delegations, carefully avoiding eye contact. Chairman Vrax called the session to order. "Ambassador Carter has requested this emergency meeting to address concerns about the treaty negotiations. The floor is yours, Ambassador." Carter stepped onto the central platform. The huge room fell silent. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," he began. "Humanity came here with open minds and hearts, eager to join a community of stars. What we found instead was deception." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Carter held up a datapad. This treaty, behind its pleasant language, would strip Earth of its independence, its resources, and its security. We would be reduced to a supplier of raw materials with little voice in council matters. The murmurs grew louder. Chairman Vrax's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. "Furthermore," Carter continued, "we have discovered evidence that this is not unique to Earth. Many member species have suffered similar fates, their worlds exploited while the Big Five grow stronger." "This is outrageous," Vrax shouted, standing. "You make serious accusations without proof." Carter tapped his datapad, and documents appeared on the large screens around the chamber. "Here is your proof. Hidden treaty clauses, resource allocation records, military positioning orders near Earth's solar system even before negotiations are complete." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted denials, while others sat in stunned silence. Carter noticed Nyxora's feathers had turned bright yellow. A sign of excitement or hope, he guessed. "Order," Vrax demanded, pounding a gavel-like object. "These documents are clearly fabricated. Ambassador Carter, you risk serious consequences with these false claims." "They are not false," Carter replied calmly. "And there will indeed be consequences. Humanity will not join a council built on lies and exploitation." The room fell silent again. Earth formally withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. For a moment, nobody moved or spoke. Then Chairman Vrax's voice cut through the silence, cold and threatening. "This is unfortunate, very unfortunate. Non-compliance has consequences, Ambassador. You would do well to reconsider." Carter stood his ground. "Is that a threat, Chairman?" "A reminder of reality," Vrax replied. "No species can survive alone in this galaxy, especially one as primitive as yours." "We managed for thousands of years before we met you," Carter said. "We'll manage again." As Carter stepped down from the platform, the chamber exploded into shouts and arguments. Several representatives rushed toward the human delegation, some angry, others seemingly desperate to speak with them. Miller moved his team into a defensive formation around Carter. "We need to get back to our ship now." As they pushed toward the exit, Carter saw the future crystallizing before him, a future where humanity stood alone against the galaxy's oldest powers. But perhaps, he thought as he glimpsed Nyxora and others watching them, not completely alone after all. The corridor outside the council chamber was chaos. Aliens of all shapes and sizes pushed and shoved. trying to get closer to the human delegation. Security officers with glowing batons tried to maintain order. "Stay tight," Miller ordered as they moved through the crowd. "Our ship is docked at level 5. They 12. They pushed forward, but halfway to the elevators, a group of Council security blocked their path. "Ambassador Carter," said the lead officer, a tall reptilian with scales that shifted color like oil on water. "Chairman Vrax requests your presence for an emergency meeting." "Our business with the Council is finished," Carter replied firmly. "This is not a request," the officer said, his hand moving to a weapon at his side. Before Miller could react, the lights in the corridor suddenly went out. In the confusion that followed, someone grabbed Carter's arm. "This way." It was Nyxora's voice. Quickly, the humans followed the Tellurian through a side door into a maintenance passage. Emergency lights cast everything in a dim red glow. "The Big Five have ordered your detention," Nyxora explained as they hurried through the narrow corridor. "They can't let you leave with what you know." "Our ship," Carter began, "is being guarded," Nyxora finished. "But we have friends. Follow me." They moved through the station's service tunnels, passing surprised maintenance workers and service robots. After 15 minutes of walking, they reached a small hangar bay where an unfamiliar ship waited. "This is the best we could arrange," Nyxora said. "It's not fast, but it will get you back to your system." Lewis examined the ship. "Will they let us leave the station?" "They won't know until it's too late," said a new voice. A small furry alien stepped from the shadows. "I've overridden the departure protocols. You'll be registered as a waste disposal vessel." Back on Earth, President Dawson watched the recording of Carter's council speech. It had arrived minutes earlier through emergency channels. The cabinet room was silent when it ended. "So that's it," the defense secretary said. "We've made enemies of the most powerful force in the galaxy." "We've refused to become slaves," Dawson corrected him. "There's a difference." She turned to her communications director. "Release the full recording to every news outlet worldwide. People need to know what we're facing." Within hours, Carter's speech was playing on screens across Earth. Reactions were mixed: fear, anger, pride, confusion. But as the evidence became clear, a wave of determination swept across the planet. In space, Carter's borrowed ship limped toward the jump point that would take them home. The vessel wasn't designed for human comfort. The air was too humid, the gravity too light, and the food synthesizer produced only foul-smelling nutrition paste. "Status report," Carter asked as Miller entered the cramped bridge. "I've been monitoring Council communications," Miller said. "It's chaos. At least 8 species have formally protested the treatment of Earth. 3 have threatened to review their membership. The Ardaxian Empire has recalled its ambassadors from 7 worlds," Lewis added. "They're mobilizing their fleet." Carter looked troubled. "Are they coming for Earth?" "Not directly," Lewis said. "They seem to be moving to secure key points near Allied systems. They're afraid of a cascade of withdrawals." A warning light flashed on the control panel. Nyxora, who had insisted on accompanying them, checked the sensors. 2 ships approaching. Council military vessels. "Can we outrun them?" Carter asked. "No," Nyxora admitted. "This ship is slow, as I warned you." Carter thought for a moment. "Open a channel to the lead vessel." When the connection was established, a stern alien face appeared on the screen. "Human vessel, by order of the Galactic Council, you will power down and prepare to be boarded." Carter stepped into view. "This is Ambassador William Carter of Earth. We are a diplomatic mission returning to our home system. Any interference with us would be an act of war against humanity." "You have no standing to make such claims," the alien captain replied. "Your status has been revoked by Council order." "Then fire on an unarmed diplomatic vessel," Carter challenged. "Let the galaxy see the true face of the Council." Seconds stretched into minutes as they waited for a response. Finally, the alien captain spoke again. "Proceed to your destination, Earth vessel. But know this, the Council will not forget this defiance." As the council ships moved away, Carter allowed himself a small smile. They're afraid of public opinion. That's something we can use. What happens when we reach Earth? Lewis asked. We prepare, Carter said simply, because this is just the beginning. News spread fast across the galaxy. A primitive species had stood up to the council and lived to tell about it. The recording of Carter's speech was shared on countless worlds, despite council efforts to block its transmission. People everywhere watched as a human exposed centuries of exploitation in front of the entire council. Back on Council Station, Chairman Vrax faced a growing crisis. The council chamber, once a place of order and control, had become a battleground of shouting representatives. The humans were allowed to leave, demanded the Ardaxian ambassador, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. They insulted us before the galaxy, and you let them go. Military action against a diplomatic vessel would have only confirmed their accusations, Vrax replied, trying to maintain his authority. The damage is done, said another representative. 3 more species have requested reviews of their treaties since yesterday. Vrax slammed his ceremonial staff on the floor. Enough. Earth is one primitive world. They will be dealt with in time. But even as he spoke, Vrax knew the situation was slipping from his control. For thousands of years, the Big Five had maintained their power through secrecy and manipulation. Now those secrets were exposed. In a private chamber after the meeting, the leaders of the Big Five gathered to discuss their options. We should send the fleet now, insisted Drawl of the Ardaxian Empire. Crush this rebellion before it spreads, and prove everything the humans said about us, countered Mirok of the Silicum Consciousness. We must be smarter than that. Perhaps, suggested Vrax, we should offer Earth new terms, more generous ones. They would see it as weakness, Drawl argued. Then what do you suggest? Vrax asked. Isolation. Cut them off from all galactic trade and communication. Let them rot alone in their system. Meanwhile, Carter's ship approached the edge of Earth's solar system. They were met by the U.S. Defender, Earth's newest warship, which escorted them safely past the orbit of Neptune. Ambassador, we're receiving reports of unusual activity at the edge of the system. The Defender's captain informed them over the comm. At least 7 unknown vessels have jumped in and then out again. They're testing our defenses, Miller said grimly. Lewis looked up from her datapad. I've been analyzing the messages we're intercepting. Multiple species are citing Earth as a precedent for renegotiating their council agreements. They're calling it the Earth Precedent. Carter smiled for the first time in days. So we've started something. Something dangerous, Nixora warned, feathers shifting to a cautious orange. The Big Five won't stand for this challenge to their authority. As they neared Earth, they received a transmission from a group calling themselves the Free Systems Alliance. It included representatives from 7 middle power species who had secretly maintained greater independence from the Council. Your stand has given many the courage to speak out, their spokesperson, a crystalline being, told Carter. We wish to establish direct diplomatic relations with Earth, outside Council channels. When they finally landed in Washington, D.C., crowds lined the streets. Some people carried signs supporting Earth's independence. Others looked worried or afraid. Carter understood both reactions. President Dawson greeted them at the White House. Your speech has certainly stirred things up, she said as they settled in the Oval Office. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity throughout the system. The Council is deciding how to respond, Carter explained. We've embarrassed them publicly. They won't forget that. Can we defend ourselves? Dawson asked bluntly. Miller stepped forward, not against their full fleet, but they're facing internal problems now. Several species are questioning their authority for the first time in centuries. Lewis added, and we've made some allies. The Free Systems Alliance has offered technical assistance and intelligence. Dawson nodded thoughtfully. So we've started a revolution in galactic politics. We simply refuse to be exploited, Carter said. That idea is spreading faster than the Council can contain it. Outside the window, The setting sun cast long shadows across the White House lawn. In the darkening sky, a new star appeared, too bright, and moving too quickly to be natural. The first shots of what would later be called the Independence Conflict were fired that night, in the cold darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. 3 months after Earth's withdrawal from Council talks, Carter stood at the window of the newly established Galactic Relations Center in Geneva. Ships from 7 alien species sat in orbit above Earth, not as invaders, but as allies and trading partners. The latest report from the Tellurian border, Lewis said, handing him a datapad. The Council fleet has pulled back to their core systems. Carter nodded. And the membership requests. 3 more species have formally applied to join our alliance. That makes 12 total. What had begun as Earth's lone stand against exploitation had grown into something much larger. The Free Systems Alliance, with Earth as a founding member, now represented nearly a third of the galaxy's inhabited worlds. Ambassador Carter, Miller called from across the room. The Ardaxian delegation has arrived for the peace talks. Carter straightened his tie. This should be interesting. The Ardaxians had been the most aggressive of the Big Five, sending ships to harass Earth and its allies. But the failed attack on Jupiter's moon Europa had changed everything. Earth's defense systems, enhanced with technology shared by Alliance members, had destroyed 2 Ardaxian warships without suffering any damage. The Ardaxian ambassador, Zixtal, the same one who had first invited Earth to join the Council, looked less impressive now. His once proud posture was slightly stooped, his shiny black skin dulled with stress. Ambassador Carter, he said stiffly, my government has authorized me to discuss terms for normalization of relations. We're prepared to listen, Carter replied, gesturing to a chair. The terms Zixtal offered showed how much had changed. The Ardaxians would recognize Earth's independence and the legitimacy of the Free Systems Alliance. In return, they asked only for limited trade agreements and non-aggression guarantees. After the Ardaxian delegation left, Nyxora joined Carter. The Tellurians' feathers were a bright, contented blue. If the Ardaxians are making peace, the others will follow, Nyxora said. The Council is fracturing. Already the Silicon consciousness has withdrawn from the Big Five coalition. Carter watched Earth's new ally ships moving in orbit. I never intended to start a galactic revolution. But you did, Nyxora replied, by simply refusing to be another victim. That evening, Carter attended a reception at the White House. President Dawson raised her glass in a toast. To new beginnings, she said, and to proving that standing up for what's right can change not just a world, but a galaxy. Later, Carter stepped onto the balcony for some fresh air. The night sky was clear, the stars bright. Among them now were the lights of alien ships, friends, not enemies. Lewis joined him outside. Message from Council Station, she said. Chairman Vrax has resigned. The Council is forming a new governing body with equal representation for all member species. Will it work? Carter wondered. Who knows? But it's progress. A week later, Carter met with representatives from 23 species, the entire membership of the new alliance. They gathered in a circular chamber that had been designed to give each delegate equal standing. No raised platforms, no special seats for the powerful. We have a chance to build something new, Carter told them. Not based on exploitation, but on true cooperation and respect. A representative from a small aquatic species spoke up. My people were council members for 700 years. We were never treated as equals until now. Humanity showed us that size and age don't determine worth, added another delegate. Ideas and principles matter more. As the meeting continued, Carter reflected on how quickly everything had changed. Just months ago, Earth had stood alone against the galaxy's oldest powers. Now it was helping to reshape galactic civilization. The new alliance would face many challenges. The remaining Council loyalists were still powerful. Centuries of exploitation had left deep scars on many worlds. Trust would take time to build. But looking around the room at the diverse beings working together, Carter felt something he hadn't expected: hope. Humanity had found its place among the stars not by conquering or submitting, but by standing firm on principles of fairness and dignity. And that perhaps was the most human quality of all.